It's a living dream. Love, life, live.
I find people usually have for me, and like when I'm talking to a lot of my clients or members, they obviously have a lot of nutrition questions, and I'm just like, look, I know these little things, but at the end of whatever I say, I'm like, I'm not a nutritionist, and I never try and steer into that lane because everyone's different, right? In terms of like how they either consume food or how their body takes it in, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's really hard for me to answer those questions. So I'm glad that I have you next to me here to answer a couple of those. So recently I saw one of your posts on fermented food. So you want to just go a little bit into like fermented food and how that can be beneficial for people?
Yeah, that's one of the things that really, I would say, changed my digestion. And that was something that I really struggled with before kind of delving deeper into nutrition, is digestion. And fermented foods specifically are foods that have been undergone this fermentation process with live bacteria. So they're inoculated with these amazing probiotics that when you ingest them, they kind of go into your gut, they help you break down nutrients, and they help you with nutrient absorption as well. And there's been so many cool studies done lately of how the bacterial profile in your gut can actually influence things like hormone production, your immune system, your mental health, like neurotransmitters and all of that. So really, like, we don't know very much about how they work and what the mechanisms are yet. There's going to be more research coming out soon, I think, on that. Yeah. But what we do know is they have a really profound effect on the rest of our body. So when you consume fermented foods that are raw and unpasteurized, so not the shelf-stable stuff, not the stuff that you can keep in your cabinets forever, you want to look for things that go bad or things that need to be refrigerated. These tend to be live foods that contain these live bacteria that when you ingest them, they help you on all these different levels.
So you want to give us a little example of a food that you would eat that is fermented? Well, like obviously kombucha is definitely one of them, right? So
kombucha is a fermented tea beverage. So when you add sugar to tea, you add this bacteria called a SCOBY, SCOBY. It converts the sugar in the tea base into these organic acids. So that's another way that fermented foods can help your digestion, is these acids help acidify your stomach, so that when you eat things like protein, carbs, or fats, they help you with the breakdown of those. When people have things like acid reflux, or when they have heartburn, those are symptoms of inadequate acid production. So contrary to what kind of popular medicine wants you to believe into buying Tums and acid blockers and things like that, it's actually because your stomach's not acidic enough. So eating things like fermented foods can really help you manage those symptoms.
Interesting. Yeah, I never knew that. And like, so when I'm going to the stores and I'm buying kombucha, is there certain like brands that are better than others? And like obviously you make them yourself, right? So like, is it hard to make it yourself, or is it like
so easy? Yeah, one of the things that really intimidated me about making my own kombucha in the beginning was, is it safe? Am I gonna die of like, botulism? But in reality, there are so many things about fermented foods that are inherently safer for them to make versus something like chicken. For example, the acid is one of them. The acid inhibits a lot of the growth of common bacteria, so you're actually minimizing the chances of infection and contamination and things like that. But when you're purchasing kombucha from a store, I obviously prefer homemade, just because then you can control for the sugar that's going into it. You can control how much carbonation you're letting the kombucha naturally conjure. But when you buy them in stores, I always look at the label to see that they don't have added sugar following the fermentation process. It's one thing to add sugar so that you can feed the live bacteria. It's another thing to flavor it with additional sweeteners and sugar.
Because there's ones that do have flavoring in it, right?
Yeah, like natural flavoring is great. Like adding, whole spices like ginger, cinnamon, and all that. I actually brought you some kombucha today to try. We can bring that back. But yeah, like cinnamon and things like that don't need to add additional sugars. Or you can add fruits in there. That's like a way lower in sugar content food that you can add.
Sweet. Okay, well, we'll talk about February 3rd in a second. Yes.